Who wants me to open it? Yeah! Do you want me to open it?
Shawty's like a melody in my head that I can't keep on. Got me singing like na 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 na.
The bloody hell was that?
This year, Hogwarts will play host to a legendary event. The Triwizard Tournament. As from this moment, the tournament has begun. Now the moment we've all been waiting for, the champion selection. If chosen, the student must survive 3 dangerous tasks. Only one will go down in history. Only one wins eternal glory. Victor Crumb, Fleur Delacour, Cedric Diggory. Harry Potter. Harry Potter. Harry Potter! Harry, did you put your name in a goblet of fire?
Welcome to Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Yes, sir. Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? There's a lot to say about the Goblet of Fire.
Okay, beforehand, Timmy told me that it was like a weird one out of all of them, and I was kind of like, okay. I was like, I didn't know what to like expect from it, you know. I was like, weird how he was like, I'll just let you watch it, and I was like, okay. So I was like, I watched it, and you know, it starts off. So I guess we're just gonna before we get into the plot, I really liked it. And there were things in it that I was just like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I guess we're gonna get into the main plot of this.
Yes, the main
Okay,
plot.
so the movie starts off
Very differently.
very differently.
No
It's in this
Dursleys.
like no Dursleys because Harry just ditched them, and good on him, honestly. So
Screw y'all.
so
I'm gonna go live with my redhead friend.
it starts off at this place, which did he explain what place that was that it started off? Was that the same graveyard place?
I think it was around the same place because I think the house that the housekeeper, what was the guy, like
I think his name was, I forget his
caretaker.
name, but like, yeah.
The caretaker, that's what the word I was looking for. The caretaker was caretaking like Tom Riddle Sr.'s house.
Yeah, so
And Tom Riddle Jr. is Voldemort, I think, or something like that.
Something like that. So it starts off with like the caretaker of this house, and he's in one house and he sees that there's a light on like in this other house far away from him. So he goes over there and he sees that Peter Pettigrew, or as they call him in this movie, Wormtail.
That's because I think, okay, I just want to say something because it was explained in the book, but not in the
book.
movies.
Yeah.
You know, Padfoot, Prongs, and all, like 4 of them. Wormtail, Padfoot, Prongs, and the other one. I can't remember. They were the people who created the Marauders map were Harry's father, Sirius, Wormtail, and Lupin. And they each had a name based off of, like, I think Prongs was because Harry's dad, his Patronus was the same as his. It was like a stag. Like the antlers, and then Wormtail, he has a tail that looks like a worm because he turns into a rat. And then the other 2 one of them was a werewolf and the other one was an animagus. So they each had like nicknames based off animals. Dang, Harry's dad was the only one that couldn't turn into an animal. Wait, I'm gonna look it up. Padfoot, Prongs, Wormtail, and Moony. Oh yeah, Moony because the moon. He's a werewolf. I just wanted to clear that up because it's kind of a mystery in the movies, unless you read the books.
I hadn't really like thought that deeply about it, but yeah, like it wasn't something where I was like, that makes no sense, you know. So, like,
Wormtail.
What?
What? Wormtail?
What? So yeah, the caretaker's there. There's a snake there, by the way, which is Nagini, I think. Basically, they're having a conversation, and there's a guy there who isn't revealed it's not revealed who that guy is yet, but he'll be a little bit
There's
important later.
a new
So
important character.
a new important character. So basically, they see that the caretaker's there. I don't remember his name. I don't think they say his name.
I don't
But
think it's his name. Essentially,
but
it's young, tiny Voldemort, and then it's an unknown servant of Voldemort and Wormtail are all talking.
are all talking. The caretaker overhears them, and then baby
The
baby
boy
Voldemort.
is everything.
They say something specific, but they're like, take
Like,
care of.
show him a
this-
proper greeting.
Yeah. And, then,
Avada Kedavra.
and then Harry wakes up, and it turns out that this is a nightmare that Harry's having. So he wakes up, and first thing I want to point out is that both Harry and Ron, their hair is like crazy long in this movie.
Yeah, dude, I saw like someone giving honest names to each of the Harry Potter ones, and this one was the one where no one got the haircuts. It was
Oh my
literally both
gosh.
of them have like manes.
So it turns out that Harry's staying with Ron, and is he living with him?
I think in the movie, I don't know if it started out at the Dursleys, but I think he might have stayed with the Dursleys most of the summer and then just went to stay with Ron because I don't know. I don't think they gave much information on that.
So yeah, he wakes up. It turns out that he's having a nightmare. Hermione's there. She wakes up both of them. Harry.
She's
and
such a
Ron, I
mom
mean.
in this one.
I know.
She's
She's like, get
She's
up.
always like, and then
She's
at the ball, she's like, off to bed, both of you. And I'm like,
I know. And then Harry's just
such
like,
a
okay.
mom. Ron's like, I want her to have my children.
They start leaving, and on the way.
Yeah, this opening scene's pretty quick. They just leave the house.
Yeah, whenever they introduce Harry in the movie, like Timmy was saying, it is very quick. Like they reintroduce Harry and Ron and Hermione and everything. Then they start walking someplace, and then we're introduced to Cedric Diggory
And his father.
and his father.
He hops out of a tree.
He just jumps down from a tree. And by the way, guy from the Twilight movies, he was actually pretty good in this role, which I wasn't expecting. Well,
Yeah.
again, this was before Twilight, but at the same
He
time,
said he hated Twilight.
Yeah,
He said he'd rather be in Harry Potter for one movie and die than be in Twilight at all.
I
Like,
don't blame him, honestly.
he's one of those guys that he's like the cool kid that all the girls are like, I want to
No,
marry him.
oh my gosh, I'll get into it later.
Anyway.
But yeah, so they're going up to this hill, and there's this boot, which is revealed to be a
Port key.
port key.
Teleportation
And-
device, essentially.
Yeah, teleportation thing, which I don't know why it surprised me as much as it did, especially 4 movies in. But whenever this thing opened up the center of the universe or whatever it was,
some wormhole
it was
into
like
time and space.
I was like, oh my god.
Magic school vibes.
on the magic school bus.
So they use the port key, and it takes them to the Quidditch World Cup. They're basically just watching the game, and I forget who.
Malfoy and his father are there, and they're like, basically, y'all will get rained on. If it starts raining, you'll be the first to know.
Or something like that. And
They're
by
always
the
like-
way,
yeah.
Draco barely has anything to do in this movie, which
Yeah.
in the first 3 he had like not a huge role, but like he was there
More.
a lot more.
Because this one's
Which-
focused on other stuff than just school.
Yeah, in this scene we're quickly introduced to Victor Crumb.
He's like
So
the
we're in-
best Quidditch player
Yeah, he's
in
the
the world
best
or
Quidditch
something.
player. Ron starts off and he's like a huge fan of him. There's a quote. Ron's like,
He's not a-
just
An athlete or something. He's an
he's
artist.
an artist, and it's like,
And they're all like
people-
simping over him the whole
oh
time
my gosh.
after
And
the
then
game in their tent, and yeah.
they're like his brothers are making fun of him because Ron loves this guy. It's like
And
he's an
Ginny's
artist.
like, I think you're in love. 6ix9ine stand fans whenever he rhymes gun sound effects with yet again more gun sound effects.
He's an artist.
Basically, yeah, Death Theaters arrive. Everybody's freaking out. Everybody pretty much gets separated. Harry gets hit in the head once again, and
Harry's brain is like destroyed by this point.
he's unconscious, and he wakes up and everything's destroyed. He sees a guy who casts a spell, which like brings this like skull and a snake into the
dark
sky.
mark.
Yeah, which is the Dark Mark, which is like a Voldemort thing. People are like freaking out, like, who conjured it? And they think it's Harry at first.
Everyone
was he
blames Harry on
Everybody blames Harry, but then
everything.
again, he's always at the scene of the crime.
Yeah, it's
He's
like it's
always, like-
destiny.
Yeah, so they're like, oh, you did this. Like, no, he's just a kid. And they're like, what is, like, oh, that's who conjured this. Like, oh, that's at like a sign of Voldemort. And then they say that there's a guy there that he saw. And, yeah, so that's, if I'm remembering correctly, that's basically the end of
that scene. And
Yeah, it just sets up. Oh, there's a dude who.
he sees a guy there
evil dude.
there's this evil dude that did it. The next scene is them on the Hogwarts Express. Harry, I think, sends a letter to Sirius Black
Yeah,
at that
tell
point.
him about all this stuff.
But yeah, about the stuff that happened, and he's just asking him about it. So he sends Hedwig to him. The main thing about that scene, aside from just, setting up that he's like talking to Sirius Black, which comes into play later, he sees a girl, and it's one of those things. You hated it?
I don't. Okay, like she's not that. Like I don't hate her as a character. I just don't like her with
Harry.
Harry, because like it's just so awkward, and like I get it is awkward in real life, like those kind of things, but it's just it makes for funny moments, I guess.
Yeah, because like so basically it's one of those things where they see each other and her friends like hee hee hee, and then you're just like kind of looking at them.
They're like smiling and staring. And then she walks away and he's staring still. I'm like
he's staring still, and then he makes later I'll bring it up later, but it comes into play later. So they arrive at Hogwarts, and you see a bunch of other things arriving too. Like there's a pirate ship that rises from the water, like Pirates
the
of
OG
the
Davy
Caribbean.
Jones.
OG
I think it was this made. Wait, was this made before?
Which one? Wait, which Pirates of the Caribbean are we talking about?
Dead Man's Chest release.
Dead Man, yeah, that would have been Dead Man's Chest. Goblet of Fire was 2005. Oh,
Goblet of Fire, dude! Harry Potter has it has the OG Avengers thing. It has the OG Davy Jones, Flying Dutchman type.
Oh my
Dude,
gosh!
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter's the OG.
Harry Potter's the
Game
OG.
of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Their dragons came from
Harry
Harry
dragons
Potter.
in this, and they fight a dragon. Are you? Wow!
Everything
took from Harry Potter. Everything is a Harry Potter ripoff.
Life is a Harry Potter ripoff, dude. Dude, I go to school, and in Harry Potter they have school. School is a Harry Potter ripoff.
School is a Harry Potter ripoff. It would be so like this would be once we finish Harry Potter. Imagine, this would require two things: one of us to have a driver's license, and two, for this pandemic thing to not be a thing. But imagine once we finish Harry Potter, we made a vlog of going to Universal Harry Potter World. And
that'd be sick.
No, imagine being on the car ride to Universal. Do you hear that? We must be getting close.
Oh my gosh.
Why is my sister here? She just texted me, can you please put Netflix on the TV?
No.
Hold on. This will take 5 seconds. Not
Okay.
5 seconds, but I'll be right back.
6 months later. "2,000 years later."
Hurry up, Matthew. I ran out of tunes. Wait, let me think of one. Oh, that voice crack. This is why I'm not on America's Got Talent for singing, because
All right. Filch comes in. He starts running in very weirdly. I want to add. Yeah, he's
like grasping his heart, like he's having in the middle of cardiac arrest.
So he basically comes in. He starts talking to Dumbledore, and I think in that scene is Dumbledore's like, "All right, Hogwarts is not only like home to you, but it's home to like."
This year we'll be home to
the tri-wizarding thing, and it's home to these people. So then all the people come in.
Whenever the other group came in, I was like, nobody ROTC kids, because they come doing flips with their staffs and like,
and they're
out of it.
It is this, ROTC kids.
Nobody ROTC kids.
In that scene, it's revealed that first of all, we meet a guy called Alistair Moody, or Mad Eye Moody,
which
He walks up to the castle in this shot where it's raining. It's like thunders, and he looks so menacing.
yeah, it's like thundering. Everybody's like, "Oh my gosh!"
And the Great
Like,
Hall ceiling is like weather,
it's like
like
weather. It's changing, and it starts raining and thunderstorm, and he's like,
and he's like,
he fixes it,
he pulls the Thor,
and so he pulls a Thor and he fixes it.
the OG
And,
Thor, the OG.
OG Thor. Oh my
Oh,
god. Mad Eye Moody is there. He's introduced, and he has like the reason why he's called Mad Eye Moody is because he has this weird moving eye that's kind of like
it's like a mechanical thing.
it's like a mechanical thing. It has like a zoom and enhance feature. It like it's kind of
Yeah.
I found it funny because like it looks at Harry and it's like zzz, zzz, and
It's
does,
like
those
zooms
sound
in.
effects. And it does like those sound effects, and it has like the little like circular thing around it, like
a camera.
And at that point in the movie, it's revealed that the Goblet of Fire, you put your name in it, and it'll spit out like whichever champions have been chosen, and it turns out no one under one for each school, and it turns out that no one under the age of 17 can join.
It's literally just like seniors and like maybe juniors.
Maybe
But like,
jun-
I
a
guess
ju-
what year would that be? 6 and 7.
yeah, they were like, yeah.
Rubbish. That's
Yeah,
rubbish.
so Fred and George are like, that's rubbish, and then Dumbledore's like,
Silence. Dumbledore's
Yeah,
kind of
basi-
grumpy in this. He's kind of cranky in this one.
he
I'm not
is,
gonna
and
lie.
there's one scene that caught me so off guard, and I started laughing so hard just because it's so unexpected and so like, oh my gosh. And I'll explain it later, but I just want to let you know that happened. So yeah, it's revealed no one over the age of 17 can put their name in the Goblet of Fire
For safety protocol or whatever.
for safety reasons. So basically, the next scene is people putting their names in the Goblet of Fire, and like Fred and George, they give themselves aging potions. They put their names in there. They get thrown back, and then like they're aging like crazy. So in that scene, Cedric puts his name in, and that's pretty much like the only like important person that puts his name in that scene. So
What's his face does.
Crumb puts his name
Victor
in.
Crumb.
So
Crumb
then
keeps
they
looking
have
at
Matt.
Hermione, and Hermione's like smiling a little bit each time.
She's kind of like, and they're kind of like looking at him.
Famous.
So then,
legit likes me. What's that?
so then they have Mad-Eyed Moody's class, which he basically the whole point of that scene is that in the movies at least, we finally learn about the unforgivable curses.
So there's the Cruciatus curse first.
Which can like control people or something?
No, the first one's the Imperious curse, which controls people. Like, it has a spider-looking crab thing.
And it
like,
starts, he starts controlling it. And like the scene gets very weird because he's like, oh, like I can make it do this. He starts like throwing it on people's desks, and they're all like, oh. And then he's like, I can do this. And then he's like, I can make it drown itself. And then he kind of like makes it drown. And everybody's kind of like, he gets Neville and he starts like torturing it. Which why was Neville so uncomfortable about that?
Okay. I don't
like,
know if you caught
Hermione's
this.
Like, can't you see it's uncomfortable? Like
This is something I wanted to say, because in the flashback scene or in the pensieve and or the office, Dumbledore's office, it tells kind of why, but it's hard to catch because there's so much happening. But in the books, it explains like.
Oh
Neville,
yeah, Longbottom.
parents
Yeah, it was. Yeah, okay.
His parents were tortured till they lost their minds and got put in an asylum by Death Eaters.
Okay. Yeah.
With
Okay.
that curse,
Now.
so that's why he's like.
So that's why he was really uncomfortable about
It's
it.
a personal thing, so it's traumatizing.
Yeah. So like he's like Neville's like really like uncomfortable by it. Hermione's like, can't you see it's bothering him? And then we're introduced to the killing curse, which Avada Kedavra, and he kills the little spider thing. And then they're leaving the class. They see that Neville's like staring at a wall or a stained glass thing. So after that, I think is the scene where the Goblet of Fire is like revealing the champions. So it's like is her name Fleur? Like, how do you pronounce the name? Fleur?
Fleur. I don't know.
Fleur. Let's just say Fleur. So we're gonna be angering some Harry Potter fans right now.
Fleur de la Cour. It's like Swedish. Fleur de slag. Okay. That's racist.
So we got the girl.
Problematic.
Movie mentality is problematic. So
Fleur.
they
Just say Fleur. I don't know.
Fleur. So Fleur gets chosen. Victor Crumb gets chosen. Cedric gets chosen, and
And
then
everyone's like,
wouldn't you know it, everybody's
yay!
like, yeah. Then wouldn't you know it,
Then
another
it
name comes out of
shows
the Goblet of Fire. Dumbledore's like Harry Potter, and then he progressively gets angrier when he
Harry
says it. So he's like
Potter.
Harry Potter. He's like,
Harry
then
Potter.
Harry kind of like leans back.
Harry
It's like,
Potter.
it's like Harry Potter, and then he
Harry's like,
gets up.
no, this is not happening.
Yeah, everybody's like, oh, Harry's a cheat and
Harry's
everything.
like, this stuff just stop happening to me. Like
Happening to me, it always happens to Harry.
Harry always,
So
and then people always blame him and get mad at like you stuck up trying to do all this stuff.
you
and it's
try, like, you cheats, like he's not even of age, and then everybody's annoyed with him. So then we get the iconic line in the next scene. Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? And
because they're in like the back room.
they're in the back
the
room where all
room
the
behind.
champions are, and it
Yeah.
turns out because Harry didn't put his name in the Goblet of Fire, so who
And they're
did
all
put his name in
arguing.
the Goblet of
All
Fire?
the the
So-
headmasters are like arguing because they think it's rigged, and it
Yeah, they think
was,
it's
but
rigged. They don't know
that.
who put his name and
Yeah.
everything, and just
Like, he's gonna
that
be
sets
caught
up a
for
whole
looting.
thing. By the way, in that scene, whenever Harry goes up and goes up to Dumbledore after he gets called, it sets up a thing that's pretty important where Ron looks angry, and it
Yeah.
sets up this sort of like
Beef.
this beef between Harry and Ron. Yeah, after Harry and Ron's fight, he talks to Sirius. He's basically like, Sirius is like, did you or did you not put your name in the Goblet of Fire? He's like, no, I didn't. He talks to him. He basically explained to him
Don't
what
trust
happens.
these people.
Yeah,
Like,
he's like,
Karkaroff, the guy from Durmstrang, used to be a Death Eater.
Yeah.
Snape did as well.
They just basically have a conversation about the trials. Harry's like, I can't do this. This is too dangerous. He's like, no, you have to do it. Ron comes down. He's like, who are you talking to? And he's like, nobody. And then he's like, another scene where basically Harry and Ron are annoyed at each other.
Practicing for your next interview.
So then we have the scene in Dumbledore's office with all the teachers. They're kind of freaking out. Harry can't compete in the tournament. It's too dangerous, blah, blah, blah. So then they're talking. Then, if I'm remembering correctly, he has the interview with that lady, which I can't remember what her name is, but the interview with the
Annoying
lady.
CNN interview.
The annoying TMZ interviewer.
Oh my gosh.
Which basically that is TMZ because I'll explain it later.
Rita
so,
Skeeter, that's her name.
Rita Skeeter. So he has the interview with Skeeter. That's just such a weird name.
Skeeter.
He has the interview with Skeeter, and it's basically she's using this thing which is writing down everything that they're saying.
It's
And so
Quill.
she's like, how did it feel to she's asking him a bunch of questions that are kind of weird. And she's like
she thinks he put his name in, and she's like, everyone loves a rebel.
He's like, oh, I didn't put my name in the Goblet of Fire. She's like, oh yeah, sure. And then a funny thing in the scene is he looks at the paper. He's like, I'm not my eyes aren't haunted by
my
the
eyes
ghosts of my
aren't
past
glistening
or
with the
something.
ghost of my past.
Then we get that scene I was talking about with Harry and Neville. They're just kind of talking. Then Hermione and Ron show up. Hermione's like, Ron told me that someone told him that blah 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 that
I think
that Hagrid, that Hagrid is looking for you. And then
he's like,
well, you can tell Ron.
Wait, what?
It's an owl. Then he goes to Hagrid. Hagrid's like, oh, did you bring the invisibility cloak? And then he's like, oh yeah, I did. He's like, put it on right now. It turns out that the lady, I forget her name, but the weird giant lady.
The weird giant lady that Hagrid loves.
How do you pronounce this woman's name?
It's like
let's see apostrophe est.
Maxime. It doesn't matter. Olympe Maxime.
Olympe. Let's just say
giant
Olympe.
lady. They're both heart giants, so
they're both giants, but she's taller than them. Whatever. So
it doesn't matter.
Hagrid's like, Harry, follow me. He turns out that he
third wheeling on their date.
Vindicated!
Well, this is awkward. Tell me why it's so hard to say goodbye. Tell me why so hard to say goodbye. I'm texting him right now. Oh, Matthew's here. Shoot, okay.
So Hagrid and his and I already forget her name, and his crush tall girl.
Tall girl. Star girl.
Star girl. Oh my.
Okay. Anyway.
Okay. If we talk about Star Girl, I'm gonna get way off topic. So
Yeah.
then okay. So then I thought it was a very funny reaction from Harry because he's just like.
Don't forget you, lamb.
What is it you wanted to show me?
So then it's revealed that there are dragons there, and Hagrid's like, "Oh, look, dragons!" Just to kind of like
Hagrid has
really,
a soft spot for dragons.
really hint to Harry that the first task of the tournament is dragons.
And then she walks away, and he takes off the cloak. He's like, "Dragons! That's the first
like,
task."
"Dragons? Are you kidding me?" And then he's like, "Oh yeah."
Apparently,
then,
Ron knew about it, and so
yeah, Ron
triggered
knew about it because
on
somebody
to
told
tell
him, and who told Hagrid, and it's just like a thing. And
He's
so
like, "Why didn't Ron tell me?"
he's like, "Oh yeah, Ron knew about it. He nearly fainted when he saw it. When he saw the dragon." He's like, "Wait, Ron knew about it." So then he goes to Ron. They have another argument. He's like, "Oh, like
Right, foul gets, you know that.
right, foul kid, you know that." And then everybody
Is that
has
Emma?
badges that says Harry stinks. And everybody's like, as he's walking by, you're like, "You
Oh no, this
suck."
is the scene with Draco.
He's like, "Oh, like you won't last 10 minutes. Like actually, my father thinks that you won't last 5." And he's like,
I don't give a dang
about what your
I don't
father
give
thinks."
a-
And I was like, "Oh." And then
Not
he's like,
taking any crap.
he's vile and cruel, and you're just pathetic. And I was like, "Oh."
He thinks he won't last 5. I don't give a damn what your father thinks, Malfoy. He's vile and cruel, and you're just pathetic.
Draco's like
then-
about to attack him when he turns around, and then Mad Eye
And
Moody
then
comes in.
He
Like,
comes in and turns him into a
never attack
ferret.
someone with their back turned.
And then he turns him into a ferret, and he starts throwing him around. He throws him into either Crabbe or Goyle's pants, which I forget which one it is. But he throws him into one of their pants, and then McGonagall's like, "No, you mustn't use like a transfiguration as a punishment to never." And then it really turns Draco back, and he looks traumatized. And then we basically don't see Draco for much close to the rest of the movie. We see him like one other time.
in like very short clips of like when they're all cheering in a big crowd.
And then you kind of see him just like, eh.
That's it.
So the first task begins, and Hermione kind of shows up, and she's like, "Harry, this is dangerous. Are you okay?" Basically. And then they hug, and then Skeeter comes and takes a picture of it. Which this is why I was saying it was like TMZ.
And then she looks like she could beat the crap out of him.
I know, and
so
Hermione's like so mad. She's like, and that's what I was saying. It's like TMZ. They hugged, and it's like, and then I think, yeah, it's like they're in love. So the task starts basically, and they're having to fight a dragon to get, and the main point of it is so they can get a golden egg. That's the challenge. He basically not fights it, but he's like running. He's like avoiding it. It's a very exciting scene. He's kind of flying around Hogwarts. The dragon's trying to kill him. He evades it. He gets his wand. He's like, "Accio, firebolts!" And then again, the fireball
Thor's
has
hammer type scene.
Thor's hammer type entrance, which again, not as exciting as the flying car. Come on, it's the flying car, but
yeah, the flying
still
car tops everything.
pretty cool entrance. So then he gets the golden egg. Everybody's like, "Oh yeah, Harry has it." They open.
After destroying half the school with the freaking dragon.
After destroying part of
He
the
runs through a whole bridge.
foundation.
He scrapes off the roof panels of like the towers.
The tiles and the shingles, and no punishment, but whatever. It's Harry. It's fine.
Well, they're the ones who put him in a pit with a dragon and said
that is true. So it's kind of like, well,
they were the ones. I don't know if they volunteered to do the thing, but yeah.
You're the ones who brought the dragon here, so like,
it's like, what do you expect? It transitions to the common room, and they're all like having a party, and like everyone loves Harry again.
Yeah,
it's
he's
so
like,
funny
"Who wants me to open it?" Everybody loves. Yeah, everybody transitions from like hating Harry to
they
liking
hate Harry
to, like,
when anything like unusual happens, or when there's a slightest hint that Harry's involved in anything, and then they start hating him, and then when Harry does something good, everyone loves him, and they're like,
I know, it's like they're like
fake friend.
They go back and forth so much with this.
Yeah.
So then
who wants me to open it? You want me to open it?
He wants me to open it. Like, yeah, he opens it, then it like screeches, and then everybody's like, "Ah!" At that point, I think Harry and Ron kind of make up. They're
it's
like
kind of an awkward makeup. He's like, well, actually, kind of. I told you about the dragon.
Yeah, it's like, well, actually, yeah. He's like, I told you about it. So like, like it's, you should be thanking me, basically. So like, it's kind of an awkward thing, but they're basically okay with each other at that point.
Yeah, I'm glad
So
it resolved.
yeah, it resolved early on.
He was cheering for Harry during the.
Oh yeah, by the
Dragon
way,
Run.
which like I don't know if that was like that wasn't really a weird thing. The fact that he was like cheering for him, but
He
at the
was
same
like, I need to
because
get over this. And
like
be
because I
friends.
was like, well, when I saw that I was like he was angry at him, but at the same time I was like, well, I'm pretty sure he didn't want Harry to die, like getting
Yeah,
killed by a
he's still
dragon.
his friend, even
Yeah,
though.
like it was just like a petty thing that they pushed
Yeah.
aside. So the next scene um is a pretty funny scene. There's this kid that gives Ron a package, and one thing I thought was funny before the actual like funny part comes up, the kid is like staring at Harry and he's like, not now, and he's like, what? He's like, I promised like I get him Harry to autograph
Oh my
something for him.
gosh.
He opens it and it's like it looks like a dress, but it's like a suit.
Oh
And so
yeah. He's
it
like,
looks
Jenny, this is
really
for
weird.
you.
He's like, oh, Ginny, it's for you. She's like, I'm not wearing that. And then like Hermione's like, no, Ron, it's for you. And it's
Oh,
like
it's
this
like
really like old style. Like
it
he
looks
says
like
it looks like his
a
aunt.
Shakespearean type
A
like ruffles
Shakespearean,
frills
yeah,
around his
like,
neck and stuff.
yeah, and it has like his hair. He's like, oh, does it come with a bonnet too? And then like
It does.
it's Ron's like it doesn't even look like a suit, but it's like his suit for the Yule Ball that is coming up, which I think is revealed in the next scene. So they're basically like, every year at the Triwizarding thing, there's like a Yule Ball.
This is a funny scene because
Yeah. And then McGonagall's like, there will be dancing. Then she's like, Ron Weasley, please. And then, like, she
Wait.
has Ron dance with him.
she's like, Ron, place your hand on my waist, and then
he's like,
Fred and
what?
George are
He's
like,
where?
Mr. Weasley,
Yes.
will you join me, please? Place your right hand on my waist.
Where?
My waist. And extend your...
So then they start dancing. Harry's like, to Fred and George, he's like, you're never going to let him live this down, are you? They're like, never.
Never.
Then they have a scene. They're in Snape's class, and they're talking about it, and then Ron's like, hey, Hermione, like, since nobody's asked you yet.
Yeah, he's kind of being a jerk.
He's kind of being like a jerk about it. Yeah.
Like, oh, Hermione, like, you're a girl, right?
You're a girl. And it's like,
And
since
she's
nobody's
like,
asked you.
oh,
Like,
someone has asked me.
someone has asked me, and I
So
said
triggered.
yes. And then
He
throughout the
storms
scene,
off.
like, he storms off, and Snape's like continuously pushing Harry and Ron's heads down to like their books.
Because they're supposed to be like.
They're supposed to be
studying or
like
whatever.
studying. So then Harry's at this tower, which he sees Cho, and he's like, hey, will you go with the ball with me? And she's like, oh, somebody already asked me, which like
Very relatable.
then they come back and like there are a bunch of girls that are like crowding around, and they're like, are you okay? He's like, I
Ron's
asked.
like traumatized.
He's like traumatized.
I
He's like, I
asked
asked
Flo
her,
to
I
Lecourt.
asked Flora to the U of O, and then one of the girls is like, well, screamed more like it or something like that.
He's like, you screamed it to her. It was kind of disturbing.
And
He's
then,
like, you know how I like when they walk. I'm like,
and they walk. And then the next scene, he's putting on his suit thing, and it looks really like funny on him, and he's just like, murder me, Harry.
yeah.
Then it cuts to the Yule Ball. They're basically like meeting up with their dates. McGonagall kind of comes in. It's like, oh, there will be a dance, and Harry. I don't think Harry knew, because he's like, oh, I didn't know that, or something like that.
No, it's like there will be the first people to go in are the
champions
with their dates.
Okay, yeah,
And
yeah.
so
And then with
he's
their
like,
dates,
oh,
and he's like, oh, I
shoot.
didn't know that. And so, oh, by the way, Cho went with Cedric.
And then
Which, by the way, I thought that they were gonna set up Cedric to be sort of like a villain or something, which I'm glad that they didn't,
yeah,
because that would
he's
just be
cool.
like another. Yeah, he's cool. He's like, that would be another like, just a needless thing. I was like, I hope they don't do that. But
He was
anyway,
legitimately like a nice dude. Like
yeah,
he's
which,
not one of
like,
those jerks. He's like a nice dude, even though
yeah,
he's
he
popular.
was. He gave Harry. Well, this isn't until later.
He
I don't think.
gave him.
He gives.
So they were
He
square.
gave him a. Yeah, he gave him a hint. So Anyway, so
Um,
one Harry's date is like, oh, she looks beautiful. And Harry's looking at Cho. He's like, yeah, she does. And he turns around, and it's Hermione.
and it's like
full-
tale as old
all
as
this
time.
time.
I've heard
It
that
looked-
joke made. She walks down the stairs just like that.
just like Beauty and the Beast, just like Belle. And I literally said like she literally looks like Belle.
And she
So
looks
she's going
so
with
happy
Victor.
throughout this whole scene. Like she's
I
always
know.
like I
She's
can't
like,
do the
"Eh."
face because there's no face cam right now, but it's like
But
she
like
has that face where she's like excited the whole time.
and she like kind of like waves at Harry. She's like,
She's
you know. She goes with Victor Crumb, by the way. So they have the Yule Ball, which
It starts
you
out
know
as like normal slow music, and then it goes into
yeah,
this rock
slow
band.
music. Oh yeah, so like they have the dance with the champions. Harry, it's like a very awkward sequence
The
because Harry's kind of like
girl's like,
stumbling throughout the whole
"Put
thing.
your hand on my waist." He's like, "What?"
He's like, and he's kind of like stumbling throughout the whole thing. So yeah, like Timmy was saying, it's like slow music, and then like rock band comes in, and then like it's like a party, and then and then I thought it was really funny because it cuts to Harry and Ron, and they look so depressed. And
everyone's just like dancing, like
back. So
they're just sitting like with their dates, just looking
they're
so
sitting
depressed,
with their dates,
and their dates are
like
so
Harry and Ron
disappointed
are.
looking.
Yeah, their dates are so disappointing.
Away
And Harry
from
and
all
Ron
the
are just
fun.
like sitting in the back, and they're just like I was like, ugh, like
That's me.
that's me. That's just
Except
straight
without
up.
a date.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would be sitting there just like, just like the whole time. I forget who comes up and asks Harry's date, and he's like, "I may have you on." She's
A
like, "Oh,
random
I'm
dude.
Leg. I'm all yours." And then I
Oh
was
my
like, "No,
God.
you're going with Harry." And then I found it funny because
Harry Potter's
Ron's
famous.
date.
Come on.
I know Harry Potter is famous, and so
Like
Ron's
gold
date
diggers.
is like. Ron's date's like, are you gonna dance? Are you gonna ask him to dance? He's just like, no.
Oh,
And
she
he's
just
so
walks
disappointed.
off. And I'm like, dude.
I'm like,
I mean, I know you
dude,
like Hermione, and you're like ticked off because she's going with a famous
with
old
Victor
dude.
Crumb. But anyway, so Hermione
Come
comes
on.
up and she's having the time of her life, and Harry and
And she
Ron are
just
both
looks
kind of.
so like she's
She
so
looks so happy.
like happy.
It's kind
like,
of funny because Hermione and Ron have this whole mini argument about like their dates. I think about
Yeah.
mainly just her going with Victor Crumb, and I think he's got a lot more than just like something on the mind. He's
like friends, friendship.
yeah, he's got a lot more than friendship on the mind.
The whole point of the tournament is international magical cooperation. To make friends.
I think he's got a bit more than friendship on his mind.
Hermione and Ron are having this argument, and Harry's literally in the middle of them, just kind of looking down, just like
He's just
awkwardly.
like, I'm gonna go to bed.
Ron and Hermione having this argument. She's like, you should have next time you should have asked me instead of leaving me as a last resort. And then Ron's just like, he says something like snarky, and then like Harry walks up, he doesn't even say anything, and Hermione's like,
Where have you been? Never mind, off to bed, both of you.
She's like being a mom. She's like
being such a
ordering her
mom.
own. And I
Starts
actually felt
crying.
bad for her because.
oh yeah, because Ron was actually being kind of mean.
I'm not like trying to blame them for what happened because like it's their ninth graders. It's like in ninth grade that stuff happens. Like there's petty drama.
So the next scene is Harry and Hermione talking on that like little. What is that area called? It's like a little
bridge?
Is it just a bridge?
I have no idea.
It's like a bridge type area that's kind of like swervy looking. So
Yeah.
like, we'll just call it the bridge area. So they're talking in that bridge area. Hermione's basically like, this is a really dangerous thing. Did you find out what the next challenge is? Harry's like, no. And then Cedric comes up and he's like, oh, like, you should take a bath in this area.
The prefect's bathroom
Like,
on this floor.
It's not a bad place to take a bath. And I think
Bring
he says
your
something
egg and
about
take a
if there was
bath.
something with the egg about it. And then Harry goes up there, and when you know it, Moaning Myrtle's there. And this was a very weird scene because she's like jumping in the
so
water,
awkward.
and Harry's like
She's such
covering
a
his knee,
weirdo.
and she's like, again, like we were saying earlier, she's like, oh, it took a long time for like Cedric to figure it out. Like by then, all the bubbles were gone, and it's like
her laugh is like literally like a demon, dude. When I was watching that, and my dad does not like Harry Potter, like I've said to you before.
Oh my
And so,
gosh.
I kid you not, whenever my dad sits down to watch Harry Potter with the rest of the family, because he doesn't do that very much, he usually just goes to bed. But the only time he does, it is literally this movie or Deathly Hallows Part 1, which is the two, like, I'm not saying that one's a bad movie, but it's like not as good, and it doesn't make sense without Part 2 and without the one before and without all of. So like this is the weirdest one to watch, especially if you haven't seen the movies. And when this scene came on, I was just like hiding my face. I was just like, no.
Oh my gosh.
Especially when she would do the woo,
Harry Potter was violated.
Harry Potter has been harassed.
And Hogwarts, yeah.
He opens.
So
he
he
opens
opens the egg and he puts it
underwater.
underwater because I forget.
She
I
tells
forget if
him.
Moaning Myrtle tells. I think she basically
She
tells
actually
him to
helps
put
a
it
little bit.
underwater.
Shawty's like a melody.
By the way, Harry puts it under the water.
With
This
his
is something
glasses.
which I was like, ugh. He puts it under the water and he goes underwater with his glasses, which, as a person who wears glasses, me being me, that is a nightmare. Like going underwater or
How
getting your
sad.
glasses wet at all, because they get so smudged and cloudy, and like no matter how many times you like wipe it off to clean the glasses, like they get even more cloudy. You
Oh
have to
my
get like a
gosh.
specific thing to clean it, and then it's just so
He-
tedious. It ruins your glasses. And he
has
goes
like
under
his
there.
glasses never come off in any of the water scenes. They're just
I
on his
know,
face underwater.
which it doesn't even
Like
help.
goggles.
Like it's
Yeah.
like they don't serve any purpose. So like anyway, that was just something that bothered me, just because it's like and then he comes out of the water and they're completely clean, and it's like, no, that's not how it works. So basically, he learns from the egg that the next challenge involves like an underwater place with like
Mermaids and stuff.
mermaids and stuff. So then it cuts to Harry, Ron, and Hermione talking about the second task. I
They're in the
think
library.
They're in the library, and I think Mad
Wait.
Eye Moody comes up and he's like, "Hey, McGonagall wants to see you," or something like that, to Harry and he wants saying Harry when I mean Ron, to Ron and Hermione, and then they leave, and then Neville comes up and he's like, "Oh, he's like, "Oh, did you know about like this certain thing?" And then Harry is just like, "No offense, Neville, but I really don't care."
If you're interested in plants, you'd be better off with Goshawk's Guide to Herbology. Do you know there's a wizard in Nepal who's growing gravity-resistant trees?
Neville, no offense, but I really don't care.
So yeah, he gives him gillyweed, and he's like, "Oh, this would help you breathe underwater." He's like, "Maybe for an hour." He's like, "Maybe." And then
Why are you telling
the
me this
second
now?
so basically Harry takes the gillyweed and it gives him like webbed feet and like webbed hands and
Fins
gills.
Gills. Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh
Apparently
my
you can see
gosh."
underwater too.
Can see underwater too.
Because
And
that's
so it
foggy.
basically, and there's somehow lights underneath there. Like it goes all the way through, whatever.
Second task is
So
happening.
second task is basically having to save people that have been like placed underwater.
Apparently they have spells on them so they don't
They have
drown.
spells on them so they don't drown, but they're underwater and you have to save them. So Harry sees Ron and Hermione, and I think it's like Fleur's sister or something.
And then
right?
Cho. Yeah.
And then Cho. So basically Hermione gets taken back up to the surface by Crumb.
There's a whole Jaws scene in this. The
Oh,
shark,
yeah,
because he's
by the
half
way.
shark, and it
He's
just
half shark, and the shark just jumps at him, and it's like, dun, 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 dun,
and then
dun.
it rescues Hermione, and
Cho
Fleur
gets
doesn't make
rescued
it
too.
because
Fleur
of
doesn't.
something.
She doesn't make it, but Harry rescues Ron, and is it Fleur's sister?
Fleur's sister.
Fleur's
Yeah,
sister.
and there's like all
so
these
he
little squid things trying
there's
to
all these
pull
little
him
like
down.
squid things, like as he's going up, they're like pulling him down and surrounding him and everything. Harry makes it back up to the surface. There's like, "Oh, you're second to last place," but he's like, "Oh, but for your like moral fiber, like for rescuing two people that you didn't, when you only needed to rescue one, like you have been awarded second place." So then
and then Fleur is like, "You saved my sister," and then she kisses him on the cheek, on both cheeks, and then he's like, "Ron, you helped," and he's like, "Well," and then she kisses him
he's
on
like,
the cheeks.
"Well,"
he's like, he just feels his cheek, and it's so funny.
Yeah.
And you helped.
Well, yeah, a bit.
Gabrielle, ma belle, viens.
Merci.
I think after that, Harry goes into Dumbledore's office, right?
Yeah, it's so he goes into his office and they're arguing about. Wait, doesn't the dude die?
Which one?
The dude who.
Oh yeah.
Who has like the Hitler mustache?
Yeah, that guy. He dies after having a weird interaction with Mad-Eyed Moody, and then they go in there and they're basically saying like,
I think the main point of their argument, that being like Dumbledore
Dumbledore's
and
office. Like, you should
yeah,
call off
Dumbledore's
the-
office. They're like, you should call off the tournament. He's like, no, Hogwarts is
I'm not gonna
safe,
be a
but like, I'm not gonna
coward.
do it. Harry's there, and it's basically they basically bring him in on the conversation, and then after the argument, Harry goes to the thing.
They leave for like a few minutes.
They leave for a
some
few
reason,
minutes.
and then
Harry looks inside of the what is the thing
pensieve.
called? The pensieve.
With
Okay,
it has a Dumbledore's memory in it, and
it has
so
Dumbledore's memory in it, and so he looks at it. He gets sucked into the
falls
memory,
in
and it's
there,
like a
yeah.
trial. So it turns out this guy who is a prisoner, who is one of the prisoners of Azkaban.
yeah, he's the headmaster of Durmstrang, which is where Crumb's from, and he's at the school right now, and so I guess this is what like draws suspicion off him, because this scene like, establishes who it is.
So it establishes who it is. It also tells us a bunch of random things very quickly too. So like,
there's
again,
a lot of stuff you can find out.
It sets up again, like Timmy was saying, like they say the last name Longbottom, and then it turns out that's why like Neville was upset at the bug being like tortured by that curse. By that course
in a geometry course.
By the geometry course, diagonally.
I was tortured diagonally.
Then it also, one thing I thought was interesting in the scene is that it's revealed that Snape was a Death Eater, but
he was a double agent.
Well, he was a double agent, but it was just another it was another like thing where I was like, oh shoot, because like they're like, oh, like, yeah, I was like, he is a pretty creepy dude.
Karkaroff's like trying to like get his punishment reduced or whatever by exposing
other names and exposing other people.
He's pulling a 6ix9ine.
He's snitching on people.
He's snitching on people who are in his gang, essentially. But the dude who died, his son, the dude with the Hitler mustache.
His son is like
he's running the hearing, and so his son was there, and he doesn't know this, but Karkaroff's like, what's his name? I don't know. He's like, essentially, your son is a Death Eater, and then his son starts running, and then
what's his name? Crouch.
Oh yeah, Crouch.
It was like Crouch Jr. or something like that. So it turns like, oh, your son was a Death Eater, Bart Crouch Jr.
They blast him into some papers, and then
and then
like,
so that just sets up Bart Crouch Jr. for later. Yeah,
he's always licking his chin,
which is very weird. Harry's walking out of Dumbledore's office, and he runs into Snape, which again, Harry's always at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Snape is basically like, do you know what this is? And he's like, oh, it's a potion enough to make like Voldemort tell his deepest secrets or something like that. And he's like, there's some things missing from my like
chemical cabinet or his potions cabinet.
From his potions cabinet. It's like, oh, this thing, you're making a Polyjuice potion. And Harry's like, no, I'm not.
You want to know
just a little side thing?
Another side thing.
What?
In the books, Neville didn't give him the gillyweed. It was Dobby. Okay, Dobby is only. Okay, I'm not gonna say he's in less movies than he is books. In the books, he's in this one and the Order of the Phoenix.
Do you think it's because people didn't like him or something?
I don't know.
Because like I feel like it's one of those things where he could have had like a Jar Jar reaction where people were like, some people liked him, but some people were like, oh, he's annoying, and so they kind of pulled back.
Like sweet.
I didn't have any problems with him really. In Prisoner of Azkaban, I was literally like, no Dobby. Like,
no Dobby. This is not.
Why am I even watching this movie? I think that's the third task after that, right?
Oh yeah, it just jumps.
It just jumps to the third task, which is a maze, and basically you have to find the. Is it just the winning cup? Or is it just like the Triwizard Cup? The Triwizard Cup.
Yeah.
That's the specific name. So so it's like you have to go through this maze and find the Triwizard Cup, and so they're
the
like
Maze Runner.
But better. The Maze Runner.
Better than the
Maze Runner movies, but better.
We'll get to those movies soon. We'll
get to those movies soon. We can assure you of that.
Yes.
So they're like, but be warned, like this maze will do something to people, like people lose their mind and stuff like that. So they go into and so everybody's like, yeah, and then they enter the maze. Which one thing I thought was really funny is that what is this event like for the audience? Like the maze literally closes itself off. You don't see what's happening.
Oh yeah.
So, like imagine going to like
you just hear people screaming.
Dude, imagine going to like a football game or like the Super Bowl, and then the whole football field's just covered
by like hedges,
and then you're just like, yeah, like what?
Just watch the scoreboard. It's like, yeah, and the dragon flew off in the first one, and so they had to get binoculars and watch all the way at the castle, and then The second one, they had to like look underwater.
Yeah, so like, but at this one, they just can't even see what's happening because the
Maybe they
hedges are so
can.
tall. But the hedges are so tall, like you can't
Oh,
really like
yeah.
look down. Whatever. I just thought it was funny how like they're not really aware of what's happening.
Harry Potter's a
Because-
flawless film.
flawless
It's-
movie. They're going through the maze. One of them, Crumb, gets bewitched, and so he starts like
Yeah.
he attacks Fleur, and then you see Fleur getting like dragged into the maze by like all the roots and everything, and
Yeah.
then Crumb kind of like comes towards Harry. Cedric, I think he just uses Expelliarmus, right? And he just kind of like disarms him.
Yeah, he
And
doesn't
so,
attack Harry, which is key because the person who bewitched him didn't want him to attack Harry for a specific reason.
Yeah, for a very specific
He
reason.
wanted him to win.
He wanted him to win, and
We'll get
yeah,
to that.
so Cedric helps Harry out.
He
So, like,
Expelliarmuses him, and then I think they're running. He's like, "Don't kill, don't hurt Crumb. He's bewitched."
they keep on running. They're running and running. The maze
They
is
see
closing off.
the
Cedric will, yeah, they see the Triwizard Cup. They're running. They're kind at that point, like Cedric's kind of like pushing him out of the way. And then like Cedric falls down. Harry helps him. And then they
the
get
roots
to
are about to get him, and so he saves them, and so they get to the cup.
You get to the cup. The thing's closing off as soon as not as soon as possible. The thing's closing off really fast, and so he's like, "Oh, you saved me. Take it." He's like, "Together." He's like, 1, 2, 3, and then they grab it, which is a really cool.
That.
Like that was a really cool, intense little thing of them running.
It's like zoomed into it,
the
and then
visual, like
yeah.
the visual of the hedge is closing in on them, and then they grab it. And the Triwizard Cup is a portkey, by the way, and they get flown to a place, which, by the way,
I've seen it.
is like a cemetery. We've seen
dream.
it before. Seen it in a dream, and then which, by the way,
It's you can see Riddle on the
Riddle. Which, when I saw that, I was like, "Yo,
something's about to go down." There's no way
So
it's
then-
a coincidence.
So Wormtail shows
Get
up
back to the
with
portkey, and then these
with a little baby Voldemort.
Voldemort's
So he's
like a little like baby,
little like baby person. So he's like, "Get back to the portkey," and he's like, "Killed the spree." He's like, "Avada Kedavra," and then he kills Cedric, which I was like, "No," because
it
like,
just
Cedric
happens
was
so
actually a cool-
fast.
I know, and
Yeah.
Cedric was a cool character. And Wormtail gets Harry trapped in like a thing, like one of the statues.
Like, traps him
He
with the
he
head.
drops baby Voldemort in the cauldron, which looks disgusting. He starts throwing stuff in the cauldron. He's like something of whatever, and then he's like the
a bone
blood
of
of
his,
the a bone of his
father.
something of the father
because he takes it out of
something.
this grave, and then he takes blood, or no, he
From
slices
Harry.
his hand off.
Which he slices his hand off like the something of a servant or
I
something.
guess
like
to
that.
give flesh to it or something.
Yeah, to give flesh, like the flesh of whatever. And then he's like the blood of. I think does he say the blood of survivor or something?
The blood of the enemy taken
Of the
unwillingly.
enemy, yeah.
No, he
Which, by
said
the way,
the
when
servant
he-
taken willingly, and then the unwillingly. I don't know.
Basically, he drops Harry's blood in the thing. Voldemort is officially in these movies.
The Death Eaters come, and he's like,
Yeah, the Death Eaters come. Which, by the way,
triggered
it's
because-
revealed that that one of the Death Eaters is freaking Draco's dad.
Malfoy.
Which, by the way,
yeah,
Malfoy.
Lucius.
Which, by the way, Lucius Malfoy. Which, by the way, I again was not. I wasn't surprised because I was like, well, yeah, Draco's freaking evil.
You were like,
I was-
this makes sense.
But I was like, oh my gosh.
Aha moment.
And they also say like the name
Crab
like,
and Goyle.
Crab and Goyle, and I was like, oh, and then
I
they're
guess
like,
that's
I
their
was like,
last
Malfoy.
names, because like his
Yeah,
parents.
I guess
whatever.
like yeah. He takes Harry, he kind of like frees him for a second, then he starts messing with them, and he's like, all right, like let's duel or something like that.
Or he's like, do you know why I couldn't kill you? It's because old magic, your mother's love.
Now I can touch you, and he starts like hurting him, and he's like, oh, you won't believe what like a simple drop of your blood would do, and it's like revealed that like, oh, that's why he's able to like hurt Harry now.
Yeah.
So then
Also, he
Harry,
gives Wormtail a silver hand.
he gives Wormtail a
weird.
silver hand. So then he frees Harry, not frees him, but he kind of like lets him go just so he can like
He's like, let's
basically
duel.
duel. He's like, all right,
1v1
let's
me,
duel.
bruv.
1v1
me, bro.
bruv.
Scrub.
1v1 me, scrub. And then, dude, this scene. So then Harry,
Have a
I want to
chill
be sure.
way.
I want to be sure before I get into the big showdown thing. Am I missing anything?
Let me think. So he's playing with Harry, so he's trying to like zap him or whatever, and he runs behind
Yeah.
the rock. No, you're not really missing anything.
I don't think
It's
so.
like- no, he also says, when they talk of you, they'll only hear of how you begged for death, and me as a merciful lord obliged.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay. And then he's behind the rock. He jumps up. He's like Expelliarmus, and then I almost said Dumbledore. And Voldemort's like Avada
Avada
Kedavra,
Kedavra.
and then
They meet in
dude,
the middle.
They meet in the middle, and it's like such a huge thing. The spells are going at each
like
other.
Flashes, like, and whenever this thing happens, or in certain parts, this kind of thing where it meets in the middle happens multiple times in the series. But whenever it happens, it looks like there's like fiery goop falling off the middle.
Oh yeah, it does.
Like there's like sparks and like magical goop that it falls. It's like it looks really good though. It looks really.
It does.
Good. It's like the special effects.
Visual effects in this movie really hold up.
And
like
lighting.
especially after Prisoner of Azkaban and on, the visual effects still hold up, and it's been however many years, over 10 years, and that's just it still looks great. So anyway, so yeah, the spells are meeting up. It's a huge epic scene. Like the music's playing. It's like, oh my gosh.
He's like, he's mine. Don't interfere.
He's like, don't interfere. He's mine. Yeah, and then
it makes like this
shield thing appears, and then all the people that the wand has killed comes up. So it's the guy from the beginning who I assume is very confused because
it's like, what's going on?
What's
He's
happening?
a muggle. There should be like a mini series about him.
Oh my gosh, about what happened to him, like what his life was until he died, and, like what his reaction was. Netflix original.
That
Harry
one
Potter.
muggle.
That one muggle. His parents come up and they're like, okay, like you can. He's basically saying you can do this. Like, let go now. Get to the portkey.
Yeah.
And then Cedric's like, bring my body back to my father. And I was like, oh my gosh. Harry's mom, and I think she's like, let go now. And then so he kind of like breaks the thing, and then he grabs the portkey.
He grabs his body. So
he grabs Cedric's body. He touches his body. He touches like his arm, I think, and then they get thrown back to the place. But another thing I thought was funny, and it brought back to the thing I was talking about earlier. It's literally nighttime, so like the people who were watching that event, like they don't know what just happened. So like they literally just appear out of nowhere, like an hour later, and Cedric's just dead, and they're like, oh yeah.
And then they start playing the music, and this scene is so awful because it's like you know what just happened, and like three people notice it first, and everyone's just cheering. And then you see like Fleur, like her face looks horrified.
She's like screaming, and then like, dude, Cedric's dad, and he's like, let me through. He's like, that's my son, boy. Like my boy. I was like, oh my god,
crying and stuff.
It's like crying. It's so
sad, like gut wrenching and heart.
I know. I was watching it, and in my reaction, I'm just like, oh my gosh,
it's such a depressing scene.
It's such a depressing scene. Oh my gosh.
And then Moody escorts.
Moody kind of pulls Harry aside, and then he takes him into his office, and he's kind of like, oh, what did you see? He's like, I saw this place. I was in this place that I had seen in my dreams. And then
the Dark Lord, what was he like?
He's like the Dark Lord, what was he like? He's like, I don't know.
He's like being really like suspicious.
He's like, what was the graveyard like? And he's like, I don't think I said anything about a graveyard, which I was like, oh. Yeah. And then like it turns out earlier in the movie, throughout the movie, I should say, they set up that
he's a drinker.
He's like, they're like, oh, what do you think he's drinking? He's like, oh, probably just pumpkin juice or something. So then he keeps on drinking it. He ran out of the drink. He's like looking through like his cabinets to make more or something like that. And then it turns out, was one thing I thought was funny. Well, it's basically turned out, he basically explains to Harry, like, you know how Ron figured out about the clues and how everybody else knew what to do or whatever. He's like, because I told them. He's
his face is like drooping,
is like messing up, and he's like, it's like, how I wonder how the Dark Lord will like repay me or react whenever he finds out I silenced the great Harry Potter. And then, dude, this is the scene that caught me so off guard, and I pressed pause because I was laughing just because we make jokes about Dumbledore a lot. So like, and it was funny for him to just come in like, Expelliarmus!
I have once and for all silenced the great Harry Potter.
It was just so unexpected because it was just like, I'm gonna kill you, and he's like, no. And just, like,
it's funny it's supposed to be a harmless, like, disarming spell, Expelliarmus, but it always like ends up knocking people like
them across the room
30 feet, and so, and it like breaks stuff, and like it's so powerful apparently.
Yeah, at that point it's revealed that Mad Eye Moody is really Crouch Jr., who's been drinking a polyjuice potion, and he's been wanting basically everything that happened in the movie, at least with Harry. He's been wanting that to happen. He's been planning it. So to sort of bring Voldemort back, because that's the reason. Like we were saying, that's the reason why Crumb didn't hurt Harry when he was bewitched, because
he wanted
they needed his blood.
Yeah.
It turns out that the real Mad-Eye Moody was in that chest. And like you're
Yeah.
saying, chest within a chest within a chest.
There's a lot of
So,
chests, and it's a really deep chest. It's like
yeah,
3
it goes
feet.
so far down. They have like a little eulogy for Cedric, and he's basically
This is-
saying like
yeah,
his
this is
death
important.
will not be in vain. Then they have a scene where all the other departed. I think it's just like the last day, right, of school, probably.
Yeah, or like maybe second to last
So
or something.
yeah, so all the schools are leaving. Like we were saying, Crumb is like talking to Hermione. He's like, "Oh, you know, like write to me" or something like that.
And she's just like, bye.
She's like,
she doesn't
"Alright, bye."
say okay or anything
She's
because
just like, "Bye."
she's like, I'm gonna go get Ron.
And one thing, I guess this is sort of like an acknowledgement to the fact that the rest of the series is just like darker and whatever. She's like, things are gonna be different now. And Harry's just like, yes.
It's just like, yes.
Everything's going to change now, isn't it?
Yes.
Final shot of the pirate ship that was taking the school there before. You see the chariot leaving.
It's
Then
kind
you
of
see
funny
the-
because it's sailing off in like a
It
clean
looks like
fashion,
it
and just
sinks.
sinks. It's hilarious.
Imagine like if you just
Should
hear
just edit
screaming like, "Oh my god!" The pirate ship sinks, and that's Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I really liked Goblet of Fire. I thought that it was it was a really fun way. And again, like now I know it literally, Hermione, do you think things are going to be different now? Yes. Like it's literally
There's
like
not even a
things are
maybe
going-
or probably.
There's not
or
even maybe, just yes. Because I know now
dead,
that things are
sad.
going to be different in this series, and I'm ready for it, and I'm excited for it, and I can't wait to watch Order of the Phoenix.
Dude, I'm so
It's gonna be
hyped.
crazy. I remember like at different points in core and throughout high school, you were like you need to watch these movies, and I was like,
I probably will eventually.
I was
You were
like,
like
maybe.
so uninterested, but
I know before. Okay, I want to point out. I always thought that Harry Potter looked cool, but I was never like. I was pretty uninterested because I was just like, eh.
I can understand.
I was
like new things are like, I have these other movies that I like. Why would I want to see
yeah,
it?
like why would I wanted to start watching this? And then at different points to me was like I think you'd
That's
really
how I
like it.
was
Like you should watch them. And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I was like, I don't own them. Like
Dude,
it's
this
a
is
lot.
so
I was
crazy to
like,
think
it's a
about.
lot of money. Like I don't own them. And then like now, literally,
We're making reviews.
we're making reviews for it. It's my first time seeing it. It's the end of. I mean, like I technically had one more year of high school, but I freaking graduated a year early,
You
like a
nailed it.
champion. Now, end of high school for
Harry Potter.
both of us, really, and I'm finally watching these movies.
Dude,
It's just so weird to think about.
we need to rate these. Out of
Okay, yeah, we
10.
need to rate it. I know what I'm gonna give it.
Okay, yeah, I have it. I have it.
In 3,
3,
2, 1, 8.8.
8.8. What? What? Dude, I was going for 7 and I was like, no, I'm
Yo.
gonna say 8. 8.8, dude.
Okay, for the
Or
record,
Diaz in the Force.
we we did not plan that. I just want to point that out.
No, we did not plan
did
that.
not.
People are gonna be in the comments like,
8.8.
yeah, plan this.
We
Dude.
planned it. No, we did not.
Dude, we did
Oh
not
my
plan it. I
gosh,
literally
that's
had this in my
crazy.
mind before we counted down.
So that's the end of our review for years 3 and 4, Prisoner of Azkaban and Goblet of Fire. And
Be sure
Yeah.
to like this video, subscribe, turn on
like this video,
notifications
subscribe,
if
and
you want.
see you guys in the next one.